There is a hidden instinct that controls women without them realizing it. It decides who they fall in love with, when they compete, when they sacrifice themselves, and even how they react in dangerous situations. Carl Jung called this an ancestral force, an unconscious program that has been operating for thousands of years, shaping every feminine decision. This instinct is so powerful, it can make an intelligent woman repeatedly choose toxic partners or lead a successful professional to sabotage her own career. It explains why some women become irresistibly magnetic, while others constantly struggle for attention. Jung's most shocking discovery: this instinct doesn't just influence, it dominates. It controls emotional reactions, apparently logical decisions, and even how women relate to each other. It's as if there's a secret code programmed in the feminine unconscious, determining behaviors that seem like conscious choices. What you're about to discover will revolutionize your understanding of feminine behavior. Jung unveiled the exact mechanisms of this instinct, and for the first time, you'll understand how it operates in the shadows of the feminine mind, controlling destinies without anyone suspecting. 1. The invisible protection instinct. Deep within every woman's mind lies a guardian that never sleeps. This ancient force awakens the moment she senses any threat to herself or those she loves. It's not something she chooses to activate. It simply takes control, making decisions faster than her conscious mind can process. This protective mechanism operates like an invisible shield, constantly scanning the environment for potential dangers. When a woman walks alone at night and suddenly feels the urge to cross the street, that's not paranoia. It's this instinct speaking. When she instinctively dislikes someone without logical reason, only to discover later that her feelings were justified, she's experiencing this ancestral wisdom in action. The most fascinating aspect of this protective force is how it extends beyond personal safety. It creates an automatic response to protect not just physical well-being, but emotional and psychological boundaries as well. A woman might find herself becoming cold or distant with someone who seems friendly on the surface, not understanding why until much later, when that person's true intentions become clear. This instinct also governs how women protect their children, their relationships, and even their dreams. It can make a mother lift a car to save her child, or cause a woman to end a relationship that appears perfect but feels wrong at a deeper level. The protective mechanism doesn't always make logical sense in the moment, but it operates from a place of ancient knowledge that has kept women safe for millennia. What makes this instinct particularly powerful is its ability to detect subtle energy changes in people and environments. Women often describe feeling uncomfortable in certain places or around specific individuals without being able to explain why. This isn't intuition in the mystical sense. It's a highly sophisticated survival mechanism that processes thousands of micro-signals that the conscious mind misses. The protective instinct also influences how women form friendships and professional relationships. It creates an automatic filtering system that determines who gets close access to their inner world and who remains at a safe distance. This selective process happens so naturally that most women don't realize they're constantly evaluating and categorizing people based on potential threat levels. In romantic relationships, this protective mechanism can create seemingly contradictory behaviors. A woman might be drawn to someone who represents security and safety, while simultaneously pushing away partners who try to get too close too quickly. The instinct recognizes that vulnerability requires careful evaluation, and it won't allow emotional walls to come down until it's certain the person is trustworthy. This same protective force can also manifest as fierce loyalty once someone has been deemed safe. When a woman decides to trust and protect someone, she can become incredibly devoted, sometimes to her own detriment. The instinct that once kept her guarded now redirects that same energy toward defending and nurturing the person she's chosen to love. The modern world presents unique challenges to this protective mechanism. Ancient dangers were clear and obvious, but today's threats are often subtle and psychological. The instinct still operates at full strength, but it sometimes struggles to differentiate between real dangers and false alarms, leading to anxiety, trust issues, or seemingly irrational fears that actually stem from this overactive protective system. Understanding this invisible guardian helps explain many behaviors that seem confusing or contradictory. When a woman seems overly cautious or suspicious, she's not being difficult. She's allowing an ancient wisdom to guide her decisions. This protective instinct has evolved over thousands of years to keep women alive and safe, and it continues to operate whether we acknowledge it or not. 2. The silent competition between women. Beneath the surface of female friendships and interactions runs an undercurrent that most women never openly acknowledge. This competitive force operates in whispers and glances, in subtle comparisons and unspoken judgments that can make or break relationships without a single harsh word being spoken. This competition isn't the obvious, aggressive type seen in sports or business. It's far more sophisticated and nuanced, playing out through clothing choices, relationship status, career achievements, and even parenting styles. Two women can have an entire competitive conversation while appearing to have a friendly chat about weekend plans. The competitive instinct emerges most strongly when women perceive a threat to their position or value within their social group. It might manifest as subtle, undermining comments disguised as concern, or excessive praise that somehow manages to sound condescending. A simple compliment, like "you're so brave to wear that," can carry layers of competitive messaging that both women understand perfectly. What makes this competition particularly complex is that it often coexists with genuine affection and support. The same woman who feels competitive with her friend can also feel protective and caring toward her. This creates internal conflict and confusion as women struggle to understand why they sometimes feel resentful toward people they genuinely love. The competitive mechanism becomes especially intense around life milestones. Engagements, pregnancies, promotions, and other achievements can trigger this instinct even among the closest friends. A woman might find herself feeling inexplicably sad or anxious when hearing good news from a friend, not because she's a bad person, but because this ancient competitive program is automatically activated. Social media has amplified this silent competition to unprecedented levels. Every post becomes an opportunity for comparison. Every photo a potential threat to one's perceived status. Women find themselves curating their online presence not just for men or employers, but primarily for other women who are constantly evaluating and comparing their lives to everyone else's highlight reel. The workplace presents another arena where this competition plays out in sophisticated ways. Women might undermine each other through seemingly supportive actions, like volunteering to help with tasks that keep a colleague from advancing, or offering advice that subtly discourages risk-taking. These behaviors often happen unconsciously, driven by the competitive instinct rather than malicious intent. In romantic contexts, this competition can become particularly intense. When single women are around coupled friends, or when someone's relationship appears threatened, the competitive mechanism can override normal social boundaries. A woman might find herself flirting with her friend's partner not because she's attracted to him, but because the competitive instinct compels her to prove she could win him if she wanted to. This silent competition extends to parenting, where women compare everything from pregnancy experiences to children's achievements. Playgroups and school events become battlegrounds where competitive energy flows beneath conversations about education and child development. The instinct drives women to establish hierarchies and prove their worth as mothers through their children's success. The most tragic aspect of this competitive mechanism is how it prevents women from forming the deep, supportive relationships they actually crave. The same instinct that drives competition also creates mistrust and prevents vulnerability, keeping women isolated even when surrounded by potential allies and friends. Understanding this silent competitive force is crucial for women who want to build authentic relationships. Recognizing when the competitive instinct is activated allows for conscious choice about how to respond. Instead of being controlled by this ancient programming, women can choose cooperation over competition and create the supportive communities they truly desire. 3. Unconscious feminine magnetism. Every woman possesses a natural magnetic force that she activates without conscious thought or effort. This isn't about physical beauty or charm. It's something far deeper and more primal that draws people toward her like metal to a magnet. Some women radiate this energy constantly, while others only access it in specific moments. But every female carries this invisible power within her unconscious mind. This magnetic quality operates through energy rather than action. It's the woman who walks into a room and immediately shifts the atmosphere without saying a word. People gravitate toward her not because of what she does, but because of what she emanates. This force doesn't depend on confidence or social skills. Sometimes the quietest women in the room possess the strongest magnetic pull. The magnetic mechanism works by tapping into ancient feminine archetypes that exist in the collective unconscious. When a woman unconsciously embodies these timeless patterns, she becomes irresistible to both men and women, though for different reasons. Men are drawn to her reproductive and nurturing potential, while women are attracted to her power and want to either emulate or compete with her. This magnetism shifts and changes throughout a woman's life cycle, becoming stronger during certain phases and weaker during others. Young women often possess raw magnetic power that they don't know how to control or direct. Mature women develop more refined magnetism that's focused and purposeful. Older women can radiate a different type of magnetic wisdom that draws people seeking guidance and stability. The most fascinating aspect of this unconscious magnetism is how it operates independently of a woman's self-perception. Women who consider themselves plain or unremarkable often possess tremendous magnetic power that everyone else can see, except them. Conversely, women who work hard to be attractive sometimes struggle to access their natural magnetism because they're trying too hard to create artificially what already exists naturally. This magnetic force becomes particularly powerful when a woman is aligned with her authentic self. The energy flows most freely when she's not trying to be someone else or suppressing parts of her personality. Authenticity acts like an amplifier for natural magnetism, making her presence feel genuine and compelling rather than forced or artificial. Sexual energy plays a significant role in feminine magnetism, but not in the obvious way most people think. It's not about being overtly sexual or flirtatious. Instead, it's about having a healthy relationship with her own feminine energy and sexual nature. Women who are comfortable with their sexuality, whether they express it openly or keep it private, radiate a magnetic confidence that others find irresistible. The magnetic mechanism also responds to emotional states and life circumstances. Women going through major transitions, healing from trauma, or experiencing deep personal growth often find their magnetism intensifying. Crisis and change can strip away artificial layers and reveal the raw magnetic power underneath, making them incredibly attractive to others during these vulnerable periods. Modern society often teaches women to suppress or hide their natural magnetism, viewing it as dangerous or inappropriate. This creates internal conflict between the unconscious magnetic force and conscious social conditioning. Women learn to dim their light to make others comfortable, not realizing they're disconnecting from one of their most powerful natural gifts. Social media and dating apps have created confusion about magnetism, leading women to believe it's something that can be manufactured through filters, poses, or strategic presentation. This artificial approach actually weakens natural magnetism because it's based on external validation rather than internal alignment. The most magnetic women online are those who somehow manage to convey authenticity through digital mediums. The magnetic force can also be temporarily blocked by trauma, depression, or chronic stress. When a woman is disconnected from her body, emotions, or intuition, her natural magnetism becomes muted. Healing these disconnections often results in a dramatic return of magnetic power that surprises everyone, including herself. Understanding unconscious magnetism helps explain why some women effortlessly attract opportunities, relationships, and experiences, while others struggle despite having obvious advantages. Magnetism operates on a different frequency than logic or strategy, drawing toward a woman exactly what matches her internal energetic state. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the SIM Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. 4. Partner selection by instinct. When a woman chooses a romantic partner, she believes she's making a conscious decision based on compatibility, attraction, and shared values. In reality, an ancient selection mechanism is operating beneath her awareness, evaluating potential mates according to criteria that have nothing to do with her conscious preferences and everything to do with primitive survival programming. This unconscious selection system processes information that the rational mind never considers. It evaluates genetic compatibility through scent, assesses protection potential through body language, and determines resource availability through subtle behavioral cues. A woman might feel inexplicably drawn to someone who doesn't match her stated type, or conversely, feel cold towards someone who seems perfect on paper. The selection instinct operates fastest during initial encounters, often making its determination within seconds of meeting someone. This snap judgment happens so quickly that it bypasses conscious thought entirely. A woman might find herself immediately comfortable or uncomfortable with someone without understanding why, not realizing that her unconscious mind has already completed a comprehensive evaluation. Physical attraction plays a role in this selection process, but not in the way most people assume. The unconscious mind doesn't evaluate conventional attractiveness. Instead, it assesses genetic compatibility, health markers, and reproductive potential through features that might seem irrelevant to conscious attraction. Strong jawlines might signal good genes, while symmetrical features suggest developmental stability. The selection mechanism also evaluates emotional and psychological compatibility through micro-expressions, voice tones, and energy patterns. A man might say all the right things, but if his unconscious signals don't match his words, the selection instinct will reject him regardless of his apparent suitability. This explains why women sometimes choose partners who seem wrong for them while rejecting obviously good matches. Past experiences and childhood patterns heavily influence this selection system, often in ways that seem counterproductive. A woman who grew up with an absent father might unconsciously select emotionally unavailable partners, not because she consciously wants unavailability, but because her selection mechanism has been programmed to recognize that pattern as familiar and therefore safe. The instinct also considers social and economic factors, but through an ancient lens that doesn't always translate well to modern circumstances. It might favor the leather jacket rebel over the responsible accountant because primitive programming associates risk-taking with genetic fitness and protection ability. These unconscious calculations often conflict with rational relationship goals. Timing plays a crucial role in partner selection, with the unconscious mechanism prioritizing different qualities depending on a woman's life stage and circumstances. During fertile years, it might favor genetic diversity and excitement. Later in life, it might prioritize stability and companionship. These shifting priorities can make previous relationship choices seem confusing or mistaken. The selection process becomes particularly complex when dealing with multiple potential partners. The unconscious mind might be drawn to one person while the conscious mind prefers another, creating internal conflict and confusion. Women often describe feeling torn between what they want and what they need, not realizing they're experiencing a battle between conscious goals and unconscious programming. Social pressure and cultural expectations can override the natural selection mechanism, leading to relationships that feel hollow or unsatisfying despite appearing successful from the outside. When a woman chooses a partner based on social approval rather than instinctive pull, she often finds herself feeling disconnected and unfulfilled, even in seemingly perfect relationships. The selection instinct also influences how women behave during courtship, automatically adjusting their presentation to attract or repel specific types of partners. A woman might find herself acting differently around different men without conscious intention, as her unconscious mind tests compatibility and signals availability or unavailability through subtle behavioral changes. Understanding this unconscious selection process helps explain relationship patterns that seem self-destructive or confusing. When women repeatedly choose similar types of partners despite conscious intentions to change, they're not being stubborn or self-sabotaging. They're following deeply ingrained programming that operates below conscious awareness and requires specific techniques to modify. 5. The automatic feminine sacrifice. Within every woman exists a mechanism that compels her to give pieces of herself away without conscious decision or awareness. This isn't learned behavior or social conditioning. It's an ancient program that automatically activates when she perceives need in others, causing her to sacrifice her own time, energy, resources, and dreams before she even realizes what's happening. This sacrificial impulse operates like a reflex, bypassing rational thought and jumping straight into action. A woman might find herself staying late at work to cover for a colleague, lending money she can't afford to lose, or cancelling her own plans to help someone else with their crisis. She doesn't consciously choose these actions. They happen automatically, driven by this deep programming. The mechanism becomes particularly intense in relationships, where women often sacrifice their own needs, preferences, and goals to maintain harmony and meet their partner's expectations. She might give up hobbies she loves, change her appearance to please him, or abandon career ambitions to support his dreams. These sacrifices happen gradually and naturally, making them difficult to recognize until significant damage has been done. Motherhood amplifies this sacrificial instinct to extreme levels. The moment a woman becomes a mother, this ancient program shifts into overdrive, compelling her to put her child's needs above everything else, including her own physical health, mental well-being, and personal identity. She sacrifices sleep, nutrition, social connections, and personal goals without question, driven by programming that prioritizes offspring survival above all else. The workplace becomes another arena where this automatic sacrifice plays out daily. Women find themselves taking on extra responsibilities without additional compensation, covering for others' mistakes, and putting team harmony above their own advancement. They volunteer for thankless tasks, work through lunch breaks, and stay late to finish projects that aren't their responsibility. This sacrificial mechanism extends beyond immediate relationships to encompass entire communities and causes. Women automatically sacrifice their time and energy for social issues, charitable organizations, and community needs. They become the unofficial caretakers of their neighborhoods, friend groups, and extended families, managing emotional labor and practical support for everyone around them. The most dangerous aspect of this automatic sacrifice is how it operates below conscious awareness. A woman might not realize she's sacrificing until she's already depleted, resentful, or completely disconnected from her own needs and desires. By the time she becomes aware of the pattern, she's often so deeply embedded in sacrificial relationships and situations that extraction seems impossible. This programming creates what appears to be selflessness, but often stems from deeper unconscious patterns related to worth, acceptance, and survival. The sacrificial mechanism convinces women that their value comes from how much they give rather than who they are, creating a cycle where they must constantly prove their worth through self-denial and service to others. The instinct becomes particularly problematic in toxic relationships where manipulative partners learn to exploit this automatic giving. They create artificial crises, emotional emergencies, and urgent needs that trigger the sacrificial response, draining women of their resources while providing nothing in return. The woman continues sacrificing, driven by programming that doesn't distinguish between genuine need and manipulation. Financial sacrifice represents another common manifestation of this pattern. Women automatically sacrifice their financial security by lending money, paying for others' expenses, or accepting lower wages to avoid conflict. They sacrifice retirement savings to help adult children, give up career opportunities to support partners' ambitions, and choose lower-paying jobs that feel more nurturing or socially beneficial. Physical health becomes a casualty of this automatic sacrifice as women put everyone else's needs before their own medical care, nutrition, and rest. They skip meals to feed others, lose sleep caring for family members, and delay their own medical appointments to accommodate others' schedules. This self-neglect often leads to chronic health issues that could have been prevented. The sacrificial instinct also affects how women pursue their dreams and ambitions. They automatically scale back their goals to avoid threatening others, choose less demanding paths to remain available for family needs, and sacrifice their creative expressions to focus on more practical, service-oriented activities that benefit others rather than fulfilling personal desires. Modern society often rewards and celebrates this automatic sacrifice, calling it love, dedication, or maternal instinct. This social validation makes it even harder for women to recognize when healthy giving has crossed the line into self-destructive sacrifice. Understanding this unconscious mechanism is the first step toward creating boundaries and learning to give from choice rather than compulsion. 6. Intuition as ancestral radar. Every woman carries within her an ancient detection system that operates continuously in the background of her consciousness, scanning for information that her logical mind cannot access. This intuitive mechanism functions like an invisible radar, picking up signals from people, situations, and environments that provide crucial data for survival and decision-making, even when she cannot explain how she knows what she knows. This ancestral radar processes thousands of subtle cues simultaneously, micro-expressions that flash across faces for milliseconds, voice tone variations that reveal hidden emotions, body language patterns that betray true intentions, and energy shifts in rooms and relationships that signal important changes before they become obvious. The system compiles this data instantly and delivers conclusions as sudden knowing or gut feelings. The intuitive mechanism operates most powerfully in interpersonal situations, where it can detect deception, attraction, hostility, or trustworthiness within moments of meeting someone. A woman might feel immediately comfortable with a stranger or inexplicably nervous around someone who seems perfectly nice, not understanding that her internal radar has already processed hundreds of signals that her conscious mind missed entirely. This detection system becomes particularly sensitive around potential threats to herself or her loved ones. The ancestral radar can sense dangerous people, unsafe situations, and threatening environments before any obvious warning signs appear. Women often describe getting bad feelings about places or people that later prove justified, though they struggled to explain their initial reactions at the time. Romantic relationships activate this intuitive radar at maximum sensitivity, as it evaluates potential partners for genetic compatibility, emotional stability, and long-term reliability. The system can detect when someone is lying about their feelings, hiding important information, or presenting a false version of themselves. This explains why women sometimes reject seemingly perfect partners while being drawn to others who don't make logical sense. The mechanism also operates in professional environments, helping women navigate office politics, detect unspoken tensions, and sense when changes are coming before they're announced. They might feel compelled to update their resume or start networking without understanding why, only to discover later that layoffs or restructuring were already being planned behind closed doors. Maternal situations amplify this ancestral radar dramatically as it monitors children for signs of illness, distress, or danger that haven't yet become apparent. Mothers often know something is wrong with their children before symptoms appear, can sense when kids are lying or in trouble, and feel compelled to check on them at precisely the right moments to prevent accidents or problems. This intuitive system also picks up on collective moods and social undercurrents that aren't being discussed openly. Women might sense tension in their social groups, feel that relationships are shifting, or know that major changes are coming in their communities before any concrete evidence appears. They become early warning systems for social and emotional weather patterns. The ancestral radar operates through multiple channels simultaneously: emotional resonance that picks up others' feelings, energetic sensitivity that detects mood and intention changes, pattern recognition that identifies familiar situations and outcomes, and somatic awareness that translates environmental information into physical sensations and gut feelings. Modern life often interferes with this natural radar system through overstimulation, logical override, and social conditioning that teaches women to discount their intuitive hits as imagination or paranoia. Technology, noise, and constant mental activity can drown out the subtle signals that the ancestral radar depends on for accurate detection and interpretation. The most sophisticated aspect of this system is its ability to integrate information from multiple time frames, combining past pattern recognition with present moment awareness and future probability assessment. The radar doesn't just detect what is, it senses what could be, what's likely to happen, and what patterns are forming that haven't yet reached full manifestation. Cultural conditioning often teaches women to ignore or discount their intuitive hits, especially when they conflict with social expectations or logical analysis. This creates internal conflict between what the ancestral radar detects and what the rational mind believes should be true, leading to confusion and self-doubt about natural intuitive abilities. Training this ancestral radar requires learning to distinguish between fear-based reactions and genuine intuitive signals, developing trust in subtle internal knowing, and creating space for quiet awareness that allows the system to operate without interference from mental noise and external pressure to conform to logical explanations. 7. Instinctive emotional control. Deep within every woman's unconscious mind operates a sophisticated emotional regulation system that manages not only her own feelings, but influences the emotional atmosphere of everyone around her. This ancient mechanism works like an invisible thermostat, automatically adjusting emotional temperature in relationships, families, and social groups without her conscious awareness or deliberate effort. This emotional control system activates the moment a woman senses tension, conflict, or emotional imbalance in her environment. She might find herself automatically smoothing over arguments, redirecting conversations away from sensitive topics, or absorbing others' negative emotions to restore harmony. These responses happen so naturally that she rarely recognizes she's managing everyone else's emotional state. The mechanism operates through multiple pathways simultaneously. She unconsciously mirrors others' emotions to create connection and understanding, then gradually shifts her own emotional state to guide theirs toward a more balanced place. A woman might enter a room full of angry people and automatically begin the process of emotional regulation without realizing she's taken on the role of group emotional manager. In romantic relationships, this control system becomes particularly sophisticated as women automatically adjust their emotional expression to maintain relationship stability. She might suppress her own anger to avoid conflict, amplify her happiness to lift her partner's mood, or downplay her achievements to protect his ego. These adjustments happen instinctively, driven by ancient programming that prioritizes relationship harmony over personal emotional authenticity. The workplace presents another arena where this emotional control mechanism operates continuously. Women find themselves managing office moods, diffusing tensions between colleagues, and absorbing workplace stress to maintain team cohesion. They become unofficial emotional laborers, taking responsibility for everyone's feelings while often neglecting their own emotional needs and boundaries. Family systems rely heavily on this feminine emotional regulation, with women automatically taking responsibility for holiday harmony, mediating between family members, and managing everyone's reactions during stressful situations. They become the emotional shock absorbers of their families, cushioning others from difficult feelings while carrying the burden of maintaining peace and connection. This control system also extends to managing children's emotions, where mothers automatically regulate not just behavior, but the entire emotional climate of the household. They sense when children need comfort, distraction, or boundaries, and adjust their own emotional state to provide whatever emotional regulation their children require for healthy development. The most complex aspect of this mechanism is how it operates through emotional contagion and energetic influence, rather than obvious manipulation or control. A woman doesn't consciously decide to manage others' emotions. She simply feels compelled to restore balance when she senses emotional disruption, using her own emotional state as a regulating force. This instinctive control can become problematic when women lose touch with their own authentic emotions while constantly managing everyone else's feelings. They might discover that they no longer know what they actually feel because they've spent so much energy adjusting their emotional state to influence others that they've disconnected from their own emotional truth. The mechanism becomes particularly intense during times of crisis or transition, when the emotional needs of others seem to increase dramatically. Women might find themselves working overtime to maintain emotional stability for their families, friends, and colleagues, while their own emotional needs go completely unmet and unrecognized. Physical exhaustion often results from this constant emotional regulation, as managing others' feelings requires enormous energy expenditure. Women might feel drained after social interactions, family gatherings, or work meetings without understanding that they've been unconsciously regulating the emotional temperature for everyone present. The emotional control system can also create resentment and burnout, when women realize they're always giving emotional support but rarely receiving it. Others become accustomed to their emotional regulation and stop providing reciprocal emotional care, creating one-sided relationships where the woman carries all the emotional responsibility. Modern therapy and self-help often focus on emotional expression and authenticity, but rarely address this unconscious emotional control mechanism that operates in most women. Understanding this pattern helps explain why women struggle with boundaries, feel responsible for others' happiness, and have difficulty accessing their own authentic emotions. 8. How to consciously awaken this power. The moment a woman becomes aware of these unconscious instincts operating within her, she gains the power to transform from being controlled by ancient programming to consciously directing these forces toward her chosen goals and desires. This awakening process requires specific techniques that work with her natural instincts rather than against them, creating alignment between unconscious power and conscious intention. The first step involves developing awareness of when these instincts are activated. Most women live their entire lives unconsciously responding to these internal mechanisms without recognizing their influence. Learning to pause and identify which instinct is driving current behavior creates the space needed for conscious choice instead of automatic reaction. Awakening the protective instinct consciously means learning to trust those subtle danger signals while also questioning whether current threats are real or imagined. A woman can strengthen her natural radar by paying attention to physical sensations, energy shifts, and gut feelings without immediately dismissing them as paranoia or overthinking. The competitive mechanism transforms into collaborative power when consciously directed. Instead of unconsciously competing with other women, she can choose to channel that same energy into healthy competition with herself, pushing toward personal goals and achievements. This redirection turns destructive comparison into motivating fuel for growth and success. Conscious magnetism develops through authentic self-expression rather than trying to manufacture attraction artificially. When a woman aligns with her true nature and stops trying to be someone else, her natural magnetic force flows freely. This means embracing both her strengths and flaws, expressing her opinions honestly, and showing up authentically in all situations. Partner selection becomes conscious through understanding her unconscious patterns and actively choosing different criteria for evaluation. This doesn't mean ignoring instinctive signals, but learning to distinguish between healthy, intuitive guidance and destructive programming based on past trauma or limiting beliefs about relationships. The sacrificial instinct transforms into conscious service when she learns to give from choice rather than compulsion. This means developing the ability to say no without guilt, setting clear boundaries around her time and energy, and choosing when and how to help others based on her values rather than automatic programming. Developing conscious intuition requires creating regular quiet space where her ancestral radar can operate without interference from mental noise and external demands. This might involve meditation, nature time, journaling, or other practices that allow subtle internal signals to emerge into conscious awareness. Emotional control becomes conscious leadership when she learns to manage her own emotions first, before attempting to influence others. This means developing emotional literacy, practicing authentic expression, and taking responsibility for her own emotional state while releasing the compulsion to manage everyone else's feelings. The awakening process also involves healing past traumas and limiting beliefs that have distorted these natural instincts. When protective mechanisms are overactive due to past hurt, or when sacrificial tendencies stem from childhood wounds, therapeutic work may be necessary to restore healthy instinctive functioning. Physical practices support this conscious awakening by reconnecting women with their bodies and natural rhythms. Movement, breathwork, and body awareness exercises help restore the mind-body connection that allows instinctive wisdom to flow freely into conscious awareness. Community support accelerates the awakening process as women learn from others who are also developing conscious relationship with their instinctive nature. Sharing experiences and insights helps normalize the awakening process and provides accountability for maintaining conscious awareness rather than slipping back into unconscious patterns. The ultimate goal isn't to eliminate these instincts, but to develop conscious partnership with them. When a woman can access her protective radar, magnetic presence, intuitive wisdom, and emotional intelligence at will, she becomes incredibly powerful while remaining authentically feminine. This conscious integration creates women who are both strong and soft, intuitive and rational, protective and trusting. Regular practice maintains this conscious awareness, as unconscious patterns have tremendous momentum and will reassert themselves without ongoing attention. Daily check-ins, mindful decision-making, and conscious choice-making help maintain the awakened state where ancient wisdom serves modern goals and authentic desires. The greatest tragedy is not that these instincts control women without their knowledge. It's that most women will live their entire lives never discovering the incredible power that lies dormant within their unconscious minds. Jung understood that awareness transforms everything. The moment you recognize these ancient forces operating within you, you stop being their victim and become their master. Every woman reading this now faces a choice: remain unconsciously controlled by programming that may no longer serve your highest good, or step into conscious partnership with the most sophisticated survival and success mechanisms ever developed by human evolution. The power has always been yours. Now you simply know it exists.